This is the Norris Group's Real Estate Investor Radio Show, the award-winning show dedicated to thought leaders shaping the real estate industry and local experts revealing their insider tips to succeed in an ever-changing real estate market. Hosted by author, investor, and hard money lender, Bruce Norris.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Norris Group Radio Show. Today we continue with the ADU conversation, and we have Surabi. He's the VP of ADU Resource Center. And Shara, maybe you should do a little bit of an introduction for yourself and how you got into the ADU business, and then your team, and we'll jump in from there.
Absolutely, thank you for having us, Aaron. I've been in the real estate space for about 15 years now. Been dabbling with flipping properties, wholesaling. Actually got into oil and gas business for a minute, non-performing notes, and then a few years back we started building some properties in Florida. Actually, we did some work together, but actually what inspired me to start ADU business was actually you, Aaron. You guys are so you always have good ideas. I've been listening to your podcast and Bruce's, of course, for many years, and when you started talking about ADUs, how this could be a solution for affordable living, I started really digging into it, doing research on it, and I realized that this wasn't an easy process. There's a lot of pieces to it. You have to deal with the city, there's financing involved, an engineer, there's an architect, there's construction, there's so many pieces, and especially initially when this just passed, even the cities were really confused about what they could do and couldn't do. So I figured, you know what's a better business to set up to kind of help not only solve this problem, but also help homeowners streamline this process. So we started ADU Resource Center. It's called Resource Center because we wanted to put all the pieces together in one place and be able to offer a one-stop shop for our clients. Now, having that said, I have Avitis Nalbandian on there. He's our head designer at ADU Resource Center. He's designed probably over 200 ADUs at this point. And Ben Benavides is my contractor. He's been a contractor for over 40 years.
40 years? Get out of here. That's awesome. Well, you come in at a good time. And what areas are you working right now?
I'm sorry, one more time.
What areas are you working right now?
So we cover all of Southern California, all the way from LA down to San Diego. Mm-hmm. But I would say 90% of our projects are in Los Angeles and surrounding cities.
The city of Los Angeles? City
of Los Angeles, County of Los Angeles, and all the surrounding cities like Pasadena, Burbank, even San Bernardino. I mean, we're all over the place in Southern California.
I'm laughing because I'm just thinking of all the cities you have to work with and juggle their building departments and stuff. And how has that been?
Well, that's an awful question.
It's an interesting process. Everyone has their own way of approaching things, and it's just especially when you pick up a new city, it's a lot of back and forth calls, making sure 100% of the time, like they're very specific of what they're requiring. Some cities are a breeze to get through, like LA, for example. They're pretty straightforward on what they want. They just want a plan, structural drawings, Title 24 plans given with it, and then unless there's some specific site condition that's causing additional plans to be involved, you're pretty much going in with three consultant drawings, architectural, structural, Title 24, and you're coming out with permits. They're a little bit more of the seamless city. They're actually the best city to deal with as far as going with ADUs that I've noticed. And then there's people like LA County that are just taking their sweet time with getting to plans.
So. Now, technically, they only have 60 days upon receiving a completed application to give you your permit back. So are you saying that's not even your experience?
I mean, so many people are like flipping to it's COVID, we're understaffed, and this is the process right now during these times because we're trying to hire back people. So it really, I mean, you try contacting the HCD and try to complain about their timeline, and then HCD is taking time to get back to you as far as what you're complaining about. So it's you're dealing with it on both ends of it almost. So
I see what you did. I like your strategy. Because I teach on ADUs, and I'll complain, call HCD, let them know. Because technically you can just be like, oh, well, this is considered approved. You don't have it finished. I don't know if that's really a good strategy because you still have to work with the city.
yeah. It's I mean it's everyone's just using the COVID understaffed purpose as like a reason. So it's like what can you do at that point? They're going to tell this HT the same thing. HT is going to come and tell you, hey, they're understaffed. This is the reason why. So
What's
it's a little bit weird.
What's a fair timeline, would you say, for LA County right now?
Honestly, any project right now we're submitting, it's taking about at least 4 months for them to get even a plan check fee sent over to you. Because it's so far backed up, it's not even funny. And then you call them and they're like, yeah, sorry, this is what it is. If you have a complaint, call and complain, but this is what it is.
Oh, wow. I'm just curious, have you guys ever gone to city council members and let them know, and written letters letting them know the timelines?
We have not, but it's something that we're noticing, like even when we're getting LA County clients, it's something they already know to expect. We've had like multiple clients that we're dealing with right now in LA County. By the time I could get the words out of my mouth to let them know it's about this much of a time frame, they're like, yeah, we know we've heard neighbors dealing with it. This is what the process is. We've just learned to accept it.
Is there anything that you can do to expedite and just make it a smoother process for people?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm sure do you have some sort of like connection within the county that you can maybe make a couple of phone calls. I'm pretty sure.
No, just gotta stick it out, unfortunately.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh geez. Well, on the design side, you're really working a lot with homeowners, which is interesting. So
yeah,
they're a lot more emotional about things. Money is very different when it comes to owner occupants. They're along for this ride. For how long are they in communication with you during this process? Typically, how long is it taking to get complete?
So the moment they sign the contract with our company to get started, we have one of our team members or myself go out to measure the property. From that moment on, we're in communication as far as developing the preliminary plans. We're sending them an initial layout. They're getting their approval on that layout, and we're producing the full architectural set, getting another set of approval on that prior to even going out to engineering. And what we like to do is usually set up Zoom calls with clients. That way we're showing our screen, they're seeing live on their screens what we're doing on our software, and we're making any changes right there. And it becomes a little bit more of a personal process rather than you sit back, we'll handle it, we'll deliver you the plans, and then you tell us what you want after the fact.
Well, it probably makes it a lot faster because their input is in earlier as well. So
yeah.
How often are you guys building something that you already have plans for?
Sorry, what do you mean?
Like on your website, there's quite a few plans. Are you building off of a lot of plans that you already have and you're just making small tweaks, or are you customizing everyone?
It's usually like a foundation kind of to what the plan is going to become. So they say, hey, we like this, but we want to tweak this kind of a bit here and there. There's been very few cases where they kind of take those exact particular plans, because every site's different. Every personalization to it is a little bit different. And then it also depends on what their goal is. Is it going to be a family member living there? Is it just for rental purposes? So things start shifting around as we go about the plan development.
You know, that's a good point. Why are people building these? Are they for income, or are they just wanting more space?
It's funny you mentioned that. We were actually just talking about it prior to this. So what we're commonly seeing, it's probably, I want to say, about 30% family purposes and 70% rental income purposes that we're seeing. It's got a fair amount of people building for family. They're like, hey, we got this guy that's, especially with today's real estate rates, like it's insane. And like a $500,000 house that was selling about like 2-3 years ago is now going for $800,000. So it's, what's the better route of going? So you're doing construction for about what, 250 to 300 a square foot. You're done by the end of the day, and then you got yourself a new house pretty much.
We'll focus on the design stuff for a while. We're here. We might as well dig in a little bit. What on average are you seeing people build? Because on the website, I see everything from a studio to a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So they can go up to 1,200 square feet. So what are homeowners choosing to build?
Well, garage conversions are a hot item because it's just the given, convert the existing space and get on with it kind of deal. The next up in line, I would say we're looking at about 800 square foot ADUs. That's the kind of median that we're seeing everyone going towards, because one, you're not too big, you're not too small, and you're still getting 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms out of that kind of square footage.
Okay, that's good. So everyone seems to gravitate towards the 2 2s.
Yeah.
Interesting. And unfortunately, anything over 750 square feet, it triggers all those impact fees. So is there a 2-bedroom plan that you've got that's a 2-2?
Yeah, 750 is actually a really nice area to be for a 2-bedroom. Anything under 700, it starts getting a little bit tighter, but we can kind of do 2-1s, 2 1.5s. And it just depends on how much room we have to work with. Is it an existing structure we're converting and we're doing an addition to? What the site condition is, like how much room they have to work with in their backyard. Is there any power line easements that we're dealing with? Any oak trees on the property that we got to avoid? So all those things factor in, and then it lets us understand how we're going to be, I guess, providing proper functionality to that square footage. And then we start putting the pieces to the puzzle together to formate that layout.
Shara, you might not know this. I didn't tell you this. I was doing some research, and there's the HHH Fund that LA put together back in 2016. So they raised $1.2 billion they were supposed to build 10,000 affordable housing units. And I think they've only released a little over 1,000, and everything that they're building is on slate. It's around 600,000 that they're going to end up being at by the time this is done. So not cheap, not at all.
Yeah.
The Turner School of Housing, I think that's Berkeley. They came back with a report with numbers for ADUs for, I think it was city of Los Angeles, I think, but they're blowing away those numbers as far as people who want ADUs. And they found that for a large part, owner occupants are driving the demand for ADUs, which is really exciting and surprising a little bit that homeowners are savvy enough to get through this process, especially during COVID, because it's certainly gotten a lot more difficult. Anyway, what are some of the features that are really attractive to people? What are must-haves in an ADU?
One thing that we're seeing is just stackable washer dryers. No one wants to need to go up to a local laundromat and do their laundry for their tenants over there. It's something that's making their units something that's marketable for when they're trying to pull rent from it. The other thing is just bedrooms that are just comfortable size, not little cages that people are going to be sleeping in pretty much. So you're pretty much providing a minimum. What we try to aim for is a minimum of 10 by 10. That's your standard bedroom size. Anything smaller you can do, yes, it'll fit, but do you really want to go that route? That makes it a desirable a unit for people to rent, and people that are coming in are constantly asking us to keep the bedrooms at a size where it's going to be something that the person who feels comfortable can breathe in. And then the last thing I want to say is a comfortable kitchen size. That it not necessarily meaning a large kitchen, but one that works as far as efficiency. We're providing the minimum of like a refrigerator, stove, sink, and then in a replacement of dinner tables to maximize the space of the unit, we're doing kind of like a peninsula that comes off of the wall, and that serves as their dinner table. So it's more about like the more desirable thing is how we're maximizing that potential space, even though it may be a smaller unit. I'm not sure if you've seen our Glendale ADU that we were using as a demo, but that had that same functionality to it, where it was a peninsula, served as a dinner table, and it capitalized on the space that we had for the open floor plan for that unit.
How important is outdoor space to an ADU?
I would say it varies. I want to say we try to pitch it to a client where maybe we have like a trellis covered extension, or we use those setbacks, whether if it has like a 5 foot setback or a 6 foot setback, depending on easements for the power lines in the back. Those end up getting utilized, but I think it varies from client to client. We've had clients where we come in and they say, oh, the backyard space is a must. We want to have like a little private backyard space for this ADU. And then we have clients that just want it specifically dedicated to what's inside the ADU, and then 3 foot walkway at most.
Yeah, we try to educate them, especially if it's going to be rental property. We usually try to tell them, look, some backyard space for the tenant is important. They're probably going to like that. It's probably going to help you rent out the unit and find a better tenant. So we pitch it. Obviously, it's their choice end of the day, but
what about parking? It makes me cry a little bit thinking about a whole bunch of ADUs in Los Angeles without parking because it's so terrible already. How are you addressing that?
Well, we're looking at they had the rule at some point. I know some cities started to remove that enforcement of the half a mile away from a bus stop or any public transit.
Really?
So
like they just did away with it?
Yeah, some cities actually. What we always do on our plans is we usually put a vicinity map that shows where the address is and the nearest bus stop or nearest public transit, showing that it's within a half a mile at least. That way we void the parking requirements. I forgot what city it was that we dealt with recently. They said this no longer applies. We're no longer using this. We just don't require parking anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just so everybody's clear, the state mandate is that you have to be within a half a mile of public transit, and in code that they wrote for SB 9 and 10, they actually got a lot more specific what that means and what a quality transit corridor is and all of that. So, but it doesn't mean that the cities can't be more flexible. So another example of that is cities that allowed tiny homes to count for ADUs, because tiny homes fall under DMV regulation. Not Title 24, which is stick built. 25 is manufactured housing. This is personal property. It's not even real estate. So sometimes your cities can get a lot more flexible. So that's the first time I've ever heard that they're like, who needs parking?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask it this way. Do you recommend that they not make parking easier for their future tenants?
That's a hard thing to approach, I guess, because it really depends on what their street looks like. Because then you go on some streets, they have like an ample amount of parking, just crazy parking everywhere, and then you go to another one where it's like you got to park 2 blocks down to meet the client, and then it's you already know what they're going to go through once they provide that ADU with no parking. So honestly, I honestly don't know what my point of view on that would be, but it's obviously great to not have to provide it, especially whenever you have I want to say an alley access where maybe you can have an inset parking for that ADU and get away with it. But I think it's a great benefit, to say the least. One, obviously, to kind of be biased from the business standpoint of it, of being in the ADU business, but also as a homeowner, because if you're stuck and you can't provide parking, then you're pretty much out of luck with it.
Yeah, you're stuck riding bikes or taking Uber everywhere. So it's interesting. What's your favorite lot? Like when somebody calls and what does a good size look like? And when do you know you're going to run into trouble? What does the lot look like?
I think the best lots are the ones that have the detached garage in the back. Those are my favorite go-to, because they're quick and easy as far as going through LA. The only time that you see it being an issue is when you do a change of use to a detached garage. Even if you're just converting an existing space and not doing anything else, it triggers DWP, and then going through that DWP process right now is about a 3-month, close to even a 4-month process. Yeah, they're saying about 3 months, and so it's just things like that. Whenever I see it, it's a headache to deal with. In some cases, when there's no power lines, those are the greatest loss to deal with. About, I want to say 8,000, 9,000 square foot lots, maybe even less, with that detached garage, or even an attached unit itself works. The ground up structures are great too. If they have a nice big backyard, you don't have to worry about any fire separation issues or anything like that. Clear of trees and everything, so we're not dealing with any removals of trees. But then you start triggering LID, low impact development's been a little bit of a slow process, but I feel like they've been picking up with their performance lately.
Wow, so start to finish, what's the average timelines on these things these days?
It depends. I think we're seeing about an average of 4 to 5 months typically, and that's I want to say like a ground up structure. Garage conversions can be quicker because you're dealing with less clearances, and it really depends on what city you're dealing with. Or
does that include like when you're saying when the permit comes back, it's 4 or 5 months?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's still, yeah, that's what we're experiencing in the construction world. Well,
yeah.
How have you guys been juggling like all the supply chain disruption because of COVID? I mean, I can't imagine we're the only ones in Florida who are like, appliances, windows. Geez.
Maybe Ben can take
That'd be a
that.
question for Ben. Yeah.
Yeah,
Might be
the
bad.
supply, it has been crazy. Fortunately, we're kind of post the pandemic, we're on the tail end, and things have lightened up a little bit. Prices have come back down, which is good to see. We were a little nervous about, quoting jobs when the material costs were going up and down like crazy. But things are, I'm not going to say getting back to normal, but they're getting more, the supply chain has more available. It's not taking as much time to get product anymore like it was before. Everything used to be, floating out on the ocean in ships, cargo ships. It was a very frustrating time. But it is getting better, and the timing's perfect for us because we got a lot of projects coming out of plan check ready for permit issuance, and so the timing is good for us in that regard.
When are you guys ordering materials like while it's in permitting?
No, not while it's in permitting, but right when we know we're about a month away, then we start gearing up for that sort of thing. And we advise our clients on the products that they might want a special order, and to get those go ahead and get those ordered so that when we need them, we have them.
Wow.
So one thing that we've been doing on the appliances is we don't usually include appliances in our construction bids. So what we do is when we start the construction, we ask them to basically order the appliances just in case there's a delay. They'll probably have it by the time we complete the project.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Huh. Golly, what percentage are homeowners compared to investors, would you say, Shara?
I would say 90%. Most of them are homeowners. We're marketing to homeowners currently.
That's honestly, it surprises me. How are homeowners finding out about ADUs? How are they finding you?
Well, we have my partner Vic. He comes from the marketing background, so we do a lot of marketing. We generate about 400 to 500 inquiries a month of homeowners that are interested in building ADUs. So a little bit about our process. Basically, they contact us. We talk to them over the phone. If we feel like they're serious and they actually mean to build an ADU, we schedule a time. We have 10 ADU specialists. We call them specialist ADU salesperson people technically. We do a free consultation. We go out, we meet with the client. We explain the process, the timeline, and the estimated cost of what it can cost. And if they like to move forward, we get them to sign a contract, and we start the architectural phase. And we also prepare them for if they need financing. We connect them to a financing department. I mean, it could be Meredith that was on your show. She's one of our financing partners.
Great.
So we get them pre-approved, and a month or two before the plans are approved, we let the client know to basically start the process for the financing, so that the money is ready when the plans are approved. About a month before the plans are approved, we start sitting down with the clients and discuss the construction. And if they're ready to go, we sign a proposal with them. And then once the plans are approved, we sign an actual contract to actually get started.
Interesting.
The process.
Homeowners are just a lot more challenging. They're not a real estate investor. They don't know what the experience is like. How have you found working with homeowners in general?
Surprisingly, it has its pros and cons. They're not, you would think, they're not as involved as investors are. And investors like to be very hands-on. They've done this before. They want to know all the details, the ins and outs, how we're doing things. They want to learn the process. So there's pros and cons. A lot of homeowners, they just, they find a company that they trust, and they kind of hand it over to us as long as we're keeping them updated on the progress and we have good communication with our clients. It's been a pretty simple process, honestly. They haven't been giving us a hard time so far. Most of it has been pretty smooth.
Yeah, I believe, ADUs are just a win-win. And the homeowners, most of them find themselves in the place where they just actually need the ADU. A lot of them for family purposes. And then there's those that see the advantage of rental income and additional income. And so, the ADUs that we do, I tell people they're like mini custom homes, and that gets people excited, and it's true. And most of the ones that we do, if you think about it, they're on track homes, and now they get a chance to build a custom ADU. So, we design it to fit their lot, their size, the inside, everything. So the homeowners get pretty excited about doing that.
What percentage decide to take some extra money out and upgrade the primary home at the same time?
Yeah, they do. They do that. That triggers that. Actually, we have several projects where we're doing ADU in the back, a full-on detached ADU, and then they want to remodel their kitchen. So we end up going in and not only remodel their kitchen, but we do remove some walls, and we do some new space designs. And so yeah, it becomes a real positive experience.
It's like going to pull out money with Meredith, and she doesn't really care, where it's going to, as long as they've got the equity. But it's just, why build an ADU that's going to be nicer than your primary home is what I'm thinking. But now, just to clarify, you do have to have solar. That's the new builder code. So all new detached ADUs have to have solar, correct?
Yes, and ADUs that basically trigger a complete new roof. So for example, we did an ADU in Venice that was a garage conversion. We turned the entire roof into basically a rooftop deck because it was like a tight backyard and they needed the area to expand the backyard up onto another level since the ADU was eating up the space. And then because of the new roof area from that deck, it basically triggered the need to put solar panels above. And so what we did was we installed basically like a pergola type of structure that's on that deck, and then the solar panels went above on that. So
that's very creative. So you're just deciding to go up with living space. So that's great. So they didn't lose anything. Now, was the living space for the owner or for the ADU?
So it was a little bit tricky. So that they were initially going to be using it for the wife's parents. They were going to come and live into the unit, but then they decided, hey, why not just make this something we could rent out and then have a deck outside above for our purpose, so for us to use. So it was there. I've had units where the client comes in and says, hey, I don't need this big of a house in the front. I just need my ADU in the back built. That's why, going back to what you were saying about why some clients want to build a nicer ADU in the back versus the primary dwelling. They build it for themselves and then they just move to the back unit and maximize their rent from the front. So,
I've heard seniors doing that. They're like, I'll live in an ADU. don't need this big of a house, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna rent it out to a family up front.
they're like, my kids got married, my kids moved out. My wife and I don't need more than 1,200 square feet or 800 square feet. This is more than enough for us. So that's what they do, and they just move into the back.
Wow.
Yeah, that makes really perfect sense. We have a few that are doing that.
What percentage of the homes are you seeing do separate utility and sewer lines for the ADUs as opposed to splitting them?
Well, for the sewer line, they're required to be separate as far as being disconnected from the property and going out, and we connect it just before it hits the main. But as far as utilities, I want to say I've seen about 50-50 on my end. I don't know, Ben, about maybe on your end, you've seen a little bit the same, or?
Yeah, the utilities, if people want to use the ADU for rent, they obviously want to get separate meters, but there's ways around that. And I give them the option. You can always get separate meters, but you have to go to your utility provider, and we have no control over that, how much that costs, how much time it takes. And so you can, there's other ways for the water meter, for example. You can get a separate meter to calculate the water usage, and they even have ways to divide the electrical meter, although the electrical meter is easier to get than the water or the gas.
Hey, that's going to do it for this week. You can find out more information. We'll leave the links in the show notes, but aduresourcecenter.com, and we'll see you next week.
For more information on hard money loans and upcoming events with the Norris Group, check out thenorrisgroup.com. For information on passive investing with trust deeds, visit tngtrustdeeds.com.
The Norris Group originates and services loans in California and Florida under California DRE License 012-19911, Florida Mortgage Lender License 1577, and NMLS License 1623669. For more information on hard money lending, go to thenorrisgroup.com and click the Hard Money tab.